So welcome everyone to our Monday morning Global Heart Resonance call. And for those of you that are new, I'm Shelley Darling, and a few new people with us this morning. And welcome to our Good of the Whole Call to Wholeness. And this is an opportunity to really come in each week where we awaken to this greater awareness of this ethos of wholeness, where we're being informed by the field itself with rich new information. And we come here to find that space of resonance, to really rest in this resonant field, where we can be nurtured and really sourced from this perspective of a whole world view, which is a little bit of a shift. This isn't a call where we have large conversations and dialogues. We're just inviting you into this experience of really living from our wholeness, living from the resonant field. And as we do that, we open to this experience of feeling this interconnectivity as a living experience. And we feel uplifted and supported. And today, so happy to have Henry Lepler with us, who really informed the field with this beautiful topic of harvesting. So we always start this call with a heart resonance and invite you to you can close your eyes, or if you feel more comfortable with your eyes open. If you're driving, hopefully you keep your eyes open, and just allow this sensation to go into this sensate feeling of our aliveness. And just beginning with the breath. And just feel into those words this morning, just resting in the resonant field. It's this state of absolute receptivity. And it is a letting go, but it's more like a letting go into a sense of opening to this frequency, which we call the home frequency here. It's that vibrational patterning, really, of the sacred geometry of all life. So as we bring our attention to our heart here, which in itself is in connection to the global heart, this beautiful web of light and life, this life force energy that's always informing us. And each breath that we take in is our yes to life. And as we just let go of that exhale, we are settling in deeper into this response to the wholeness of our being. Because in our most natural state, we are this expression of love and of light. And become aware of just a sense of movement, nothing static. And that sense of safety here in this circle. And from our heart, our collective heartbeat, we can feel these rippling waves of energy. And our cellular system is revitalized, is expanding, is naturally clustering with those that we resonate with. And together we are the bridge that's building greater coherence. And just feel that energy expanding out into the circle and out into the world. And very gently bringing yourself back to center here and welcoming those that have just come on. So I'm just going to take a few minutes because there are a few people that are new on this call. I just want to share into the field before Henry gives us this beautiful resonant reflection. So each week we have a resonant reflection that that takes us deeper into this wholeness. And there's just a few parameters or guidelines that really support us holding this river of life, this information field. And so on this call, it's both we're receiving information, we're being informed by the field itself, and through our expression, we're, in speaking from our direct experience, we're informing and influencing the field as well. And so this is a practice and a pathway here. So on this call, really simply, we invite everyone to participate and speak 1 to 2 minutes, really from your direct experience, letting go of your ideas or your large stories, but just to feel how the field is informing you, which then ripples out to all of us. So speaking 1 to 2 minutes, and you can come in more than once until the very end of the call. But allowing one of the most wondrous things we found here is that to take that pause in between each person that's speaking. Sometimes we get really excited, we want to just jump right in, or we've got something to add. And here we invite really that settling in and resting in the field, which allows for a greater integration and for all of us to maintain that connection, yes, with each other, but even more so with the field itself. Just take that in. And we encourage you to really track that thread of what's being expressed. It's a little bit different. It's like there are these waves of energy, and we're inviting that traction, in fact, which never really said that before, but that traction of being in tune, what's being shared, and how that's inciting, and it becomes a very evocative experience here, which ultimately, that resonance is that vibration that inspires new possibilities, new solutions. And what we like to say here is that resonance is, that wholeness is the medicine of our times. And that's really what we all leave here, with that greater sense of capacity to be in service of the whole. So with that, I pass a virtual talking stick, which I just imagine putting in the center, pass it over to Henry, and then we'll open the call for everyone. And for those who came on late, you came on default, and so you have to unmute yourselves. And we invite you to say your names here for those people that are listening on the phone, and so they get a sense of that connection with everyone here. So welcome again, everyone. And Henry, I pass it over to you.
Thank you, Shelley. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we're in the harvesting season. This reflection kind of was inspired by a group of who does the art of hosting, which they also call the art of harvesting. And it just brought my attention to kind of the importance of opening to what we have harvested, or what we are harvesting, or, you know, I am seeing energetically or feeling the harvest that each of us is. And almost I'm seeing like the many colors in the trees when they turn in this season throughout our circle here. So let me begin with a reflection. Harvesting collectively seems to have greater potential for emergence and yield than harvesting alone. In this harvesting season in our hemisphere, let's take a few breaths and consider how we harvest our experiences, and how we want to harvest our experiences at this time, at this kind of critical time in our world. And how is it that we glean meaning and insight from them, from our experiences? Remember, it's very often the more challenging experiences and issues that can offer the greatest harvest, or at least incentive for something better. What is the message for us in this experience, in each of our experiences, in this reflection? What is the learning? What is the gift? When we take time and give space to harvest our experience and open to new possibilities, we may find that instead of continuing to go in circles and repeating the same patterns, that instead we begin to connect with new possibilities and enter, rather than going into circles, enter into a spiral of healing and becoming. This is a quote from Chris Corrigan: "The purpose of harvesting is to support individual and collective meaning making. The fruits of our most important conversations need to be harvested if they are to have an impact on the world." And I find myself that, and possibly in this group, that we very often speak about seeds, but we don't necessarily speak about harvest part of that. So as we open to yield our collective harvest, how does this give meaning to our lives and our conversation? And just a little note that of synchronicity, that outside where I take a walk or begin to take a walk here in Colorado, outside my home, there was a truck for 3 days that said Henry's Healthy Harvest. And actually I looked it up on the internet, and it's a company that makes chicken feed that is organic and with non-GMO. So it was so interesting. So there's somewhat of a confirmation. So I just open to your connection with harvest and our collective and individual harvest. Thank you.
So as that virtual talking stick is being put into the center, we invite those people that are new, if you feel, to just feel into this call, taking it in a little bit for a few minutes, and then feel free to jump in. And again, 1 to 2 minutes, and speaking to the whole. So put that talking stick back in. And for those of you that are on the phone, don't forget you have to unmute yourself. Thank you. And I'm whole, here and home.
This is Sharon in New Jersey, South Jersey near Philly, and I'll pick up the talking stick. And Henry, I love this theme of harvest, and I read it last night, and I loved the idea, which I really hadn't thought about, of harvesting your experiences and harvesting your conversations. And all of that. And of course, this time of year and Thanksgiving is coming, and I find myself in a state of great gratitude for my life and for my experiences and for the bounty around me, the bounty of experiences around me. I've shared on this call that over the last year or so, I've begun kind of stepped my toe into the local Unitarian Universalist church, and I'm finding there a very rich community and getting a little more involved, and there's great harvest to be had there. And just Shelley, when you opened this call, what I see behind you is all birds. on your tiles, and they're beautiful. And we have such a harvest of birds coming through in this fall migration. We had a yellow-bellied sapsucker again in the yard this past week, late one. On a deeply personal note, I have a very old friend from, actually, my very first boyfriend from when I was 13 or so, 13, 14, 15, boyfriend and then good friend. And we've stayed friends all these many years. Only seen each other a few times in the last 40 years or so. But I've recently found out he has terminal cancer. So what's happened as part of a result of that is this group of very old friends has communicated and gathered via the virtual networks. And we have organized a trip to Maine to connect in person and honor our friend John. And he is a musician and homesteaded up in Maine all those many years ago, and has a huge community of people that know him as a musician. And they did a fundraiser for his medical care, and 300 people were there. So it's going to be quite a harvesting of the past and a reconnection, and who knows what can come from that. So it's a harvesting right now, and to see where this goes in the future. Like, what do we do with this harvest of who we are, and how do we share that and increase the harvest for everyone? So that's what's on my mind right now as I think about what I will bring to that gathering with people I haven't seen in many, many years, and all of that. So with that, I'm complete, and I offer the talking stick back to the circle.
Well, I'm going to go. Kate in South Dakota has to pick up the talking feather only because, well, our Sharon was speaking, even though we didn't get a big ornithology report today. This bird just screeched, 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 making all this noise outside my door. I thought, well, no, I don't have birds as well, Sharon. And when she quit speaking, the bird silenced. And so I just felt like it was kind of an imperative of what you were saying was so powerful, of how we do harvest one another's experiences. And I saw a few years ago, instead of, I love to read.
Kate, you're muted.
I said I obviously checked out a little bit there. I guess my bandwidth must be not good. I just had to mention that the bird was singing as Sharon spoke, and just the return of the bird tribes. And I was saying how the other couple of years ago I heard, I love to read, and people would say, you talk about checking out the books, and how now we check out each other. We check out the person, and so I'm enjoying harvesting and checking you all out, and just had to mention the bird tribe. So I'll return the talking feather.
Good morning, everyone. This is John in Boulder, Colorado. And just a quick note on the theme of birds. It seems to be they seem to be the carriers of the wisdom these days and affecting many people's lives. We had a parrot, wonderful parrot, red-billed parrot from South America, or Southern Hemisphere anyway. And anyway, his name was Gus, and I was wondering what to do with Gus, and this wonderful bird sanctuary. They have 600 of the most incredible birds from around the world, and they had a parrot, a female parrot exactly like him, that they usually mate for life, but the male parrot that was her mate passed away. And she got very lonely, and she was hiding in a box and everything. And so they wondered what I was going to do with Gus. Well, Saturday I took him over there, and a beautiful, amazing gift these people have around birds. And so I take Gus inside and I put him in the cage, or up on top of the cage, and immediately he spies her down in the box and starts talking to her. And she gets real shy and she moves back a little bit, just wondering, and she'd pop her head out. He'd talk to her. And so it was just a beautiful match. It is kind of a harvest of, this year for me is my favorite time of year. And there's a certain melancholy that happens in the fall with harvesting. And that is, we as human beings are out in the world, in our outer life, most of the summer, and expressing and developing and building. And then at harvest time, we get to move into that empty space between being out and the winter months of going fully inside and coming into union with the resonant field without a lot of external stimulation. But the harvest time is that space in between where the union of the external and the internal come into a very beautiful space of recognition of ourselves in the world and recognition of the gifts that we've been given through our work in the outer world, and a recognition of, and it's always a time, Thanksgiving is a marvelous time in that we get to share with each other the gifts that have been given to us. It opens our hearts. We get to recognize ourselves. We get to recognize the gift that's being given through us. And that's what this resonant field is about. That's what our gift is on these Monday morning calls, is that we allow and listen to each other, bringing our gifts into the whole, bringing our gifts to each other, and to acknowledge each other for who each one of us is and the gifts that we give. And that acknowledgement, the harvest, is really harvesting the gift that's informing us, and that we get to bathe our souls throughout the rest of these darker months. And so there's a little melancholy, but it's a delicious melancholy. It's a heart-opening time for us. And the birds are they're alive around here too, making that transition. They're going from north to south. They're bringing through that energy of their harvest. They've gone from one place to another, just like we are. And so the true gift around and with each one of us coming into this place of gratitude and wholeness and offering to each other and receiving from each other, to just stay quiet in this time, realizing that the gift is in the resonant field itself. Whatever manifestation it may have for each one of us, we get to share in the most profound way, and fall in love with each other and fall in love with the world and fall in love with ourselves without any interference on the outside by resting with each other in the resonant field. And so I certainly appreciate this time that I get to spend with all of you. I'm complete.
Good morning. Nahid from Boulder. Falling in love with ourselves. That always touches my heart. What I'm experiencing at this harvesting time, I mean, looking at all of us, we all are at the harvest, the age of the harvest of our lives. And what I'm experiencing is this richness with this inner feeling, this inner connectivity with life within me. And a deeper love of her, with that which I represent. I am feeling it's like harvesting collectively is always been for me, that how deeply we can reach that deepest aspect of ourselves, and from that place meet another one, meet all of us. So in 2007, I left, I was teaching and I left to go to Iran to teach, and then I came back in 2011, and now I'm hearing that cycle of 12 years has passed, and we are in the beginning of another decade, 10, 12 years of wherever we put our attention, and our heart is guiding us. And I'm seeing that it's like I feel being cooked with it. It's like being cooked, and that the food is ready. And I'm the one who is eating it, tasting it, really the full senses of my own self. This is how it feels like at this time. And wow, there is a lot to be grateful for me, for this moment. And I pray, and I know that from this place of wholeness, we stay focused on harvesting together. That is, I know I cannot do it by myself. I only can go so far deep within me. But then there is all of us. So I'm ready for the dance. I have no clue how it's going to be, but it seems it's going to be very profound and very joyful. I am whole and complete.
This is Shelley, and I'm just feeling really blessed to be here and to become really aware of. Recently, and even last night and this morning, I was realizing how much I just wanted to, like, jump, get on a plane, go somewhere, do something, do anything other than just sitting. And coming back into this resonant field and into this focus on harvest has been really amazing, because part of the realization I had when I finally sat down this morning and just allowed myself to open was that, as what's been said, is this tracking of the heart and this tracking of the field always is informing us. And what was being informed was that it was a place of, of receiving all that had been moving, and to deepening in and understanding the gifts that are being gifted in that moment. And that harvest, okay, we look at it as once a year, but I feel like I've been placed here for this next week to really go inside of that sense of that sensate experience of the harvest and allow it to manifest through writing. I'm at Nancy's, and she has this amazing art studio, and going up and walking up and being high up on the hill, looking out and being in this colorful studio with arts and paints and, paintbrushes and to allow that expression, and I feel like that's what we're doing here, is we're deepening into the field and allowing this, information field to make itself tangible through us and as us. And so when I began to feel that, and when I coming on this call and being here with each one of you, I just started to actually find the joy of that, find the joy of, like, what would it be like, just like calm the horses down, just like sit in it, be in it, dance in it, put on some music, just start to really feel the grace in the harvest, and that actually can happen every day. I mean, I think that's what creating a ritual and a ceremony every morning, doing a little morning meditation, that's the harvest. And so I'm really grateful to be here and opening to that space within myself and with each one of you to, really get that in a much deeper way. So thank you. And I'm whole and complete.
This is Julie in the middle of farm country in Nebraska, on the prairies, in the fields, watching the harvest dust out my window at times. And I apologize, had some internet difficulties, which is an interesting process in itself, thinking about the harvest and how we work in the world. And when the internet goes down, it's like, how do we cultivate the field? So what was moving in me as I was listening, just to pull the threads forward of the harvest, is, for me, when I reflect on this growing season, when I reflect on 2019, I'm really aware of the fruits that are harvests are the seeds for the next planting. The fruit of the harvest is the seeds of the future. And yes, we enjoy the fruits of our labor, and we enjoy the bountiful harvest in many different ways. But as I've sat with 2019 and myself, I've began this incredibly disruptive cultivation of the field in my home. Incredibly disruptive, as I literally have opened every closet And I was reminded yesterday, oh yeah, there are a couple tubs under that bed in the guest bedroom that I haven't pulled out yet either. That I'm cultivating the soil for next year's harvest. I'm cultivating the soil as I'm harvesting the fruit to collect those best seeds for me moving forward, and for what I see for the good of the whole moving forward, living for the good of the whole. So as I'm preparing the soil and literally creating this disruptive pattern in my home of really clearing out to create the most nourishing, most conducive, most healthy soil for me and my family and my work, I'm also simultaneously looking toward those next best seeds. So I just wanted to honor that cycle of life, honor that movement of the response ability that was mentioned at the top of the call of really, what does it mean to respond to this call? It's also to tend the soil and to be that labor force and to plant those seeds and to tend to each and every piece of that perfect growing cycle. And with that, I am complete and whole.
Good morning. This is Tammy in upstate New York in the cold Northeast, gray. I think it's going to start snowing. I just have to say, I love this group. Julie and Shelley, I think I would follow you to the ends of the world. You just complete my day, and I just love everything you say. And I have to just echo all the messages coming in today, the seeds and this in-between time where I think the Thanksgiving, what's coming to me is the Thanksgiving of the harvest, the harvesting this year, gives us the strength to go into this winter, to go inside of ourselves, because that is a scary place for a lot of us, to heal, to grow, and be selective about those seeds. Who do we surround ourselves with, and what ideas do we put into the field? And we are such a force to be reckoned with, to put out there. We need to really be careful with what we put out. I feel like the wise woman is rising and preparing us. So it's a really exciting time, and I think we have learned how to be really selective and grateful and face up to these challenges. So thank you all. Have a wonderful week. And I pass the talking stick.
This is Julie again. I just want to follow something Tammy said by acknowledging that winter and going within, that literally the quality of an apple in its harvest in the fall follows the freeze and the amount of cold days of that barren winter apple tree in the off season. That the quality of the apples, not just the amount of harvest, but how good is that apple, is dependent on that cold, barren time for the sugars to do their thing to prepare the tree for that next year. Thanks for that reminder. I'm complete.
Well, I would like to pick up the talking stick here. I'm Elizabeth Williams. I'm from Chicago, and I'm new to the group, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I thank you, Henry, for bringing up this concept of the harvest, because I'm clearly in that time in my life, but I hadn't labeled it as such. And so it's very rich, and I really appreciate it and need to explore that even further. But I'm coming into a chapter. I have just become an empty nester as of August. So kind of, ending one chapter and beginning a new one, which is a very, very huge process for me. But it was also met with a time where I had been doing quite a bit of work with my business for about the past 5 years and felt like I was hitting a wall and needed to do some step back and just have some time of being before I stepped into the next chapter with that as well. And so I just returned from a month-long sabbatical, where, as I've said, for the first time that I can remember, I did not have a to-do list for a month. And it was wonderful. And so I've returned, and the sense that I've gotten since I've been back is don't rush back into doing. You're not ready yet. And so again, I so appreciate that the harvest may take longer than we think or that we've planned, and we need to be open to that. I need more time just to be. And so I started a Qigong practice yesterday. I played the piano for the first time in really a couple of years. And rather than rush back to work, I'm focusing on writing. And I love this idea of meaning making. I feel as if what I'm being called to is to clarify the meaning of my life up to this point, or of the past few years, understand that and to share that before I then launch into what my next creation might be. So the gifts, this season of giving, the gifts that we are, and the gift of myself, what gifts do I have to share with the world, the clarification of that. It's just all beautiful. Harvest, Thanksgiving, gift giving. And so I just so appreciate the richness here. And I will take this with me, not just this week, but this month and the rest of the season, and really cultivate it. So with that, I'm complete. Thank you.
Hi, this is Deborah. I actually wasn't going to speak today, but the topic is what is happening in my life. And I have finally come off the road and rented a 2-bedroom house in Tucson, Arizona, where I joyfully sit in the warmth of the desert. And I'm in real shock and awe that something that I've been working for so many years, to come off the road as a wandering water person, has actually occurred. And so I am in a place of amazement and deep gratitude. The other piece I want to underline is that this is this time between Samhain, between Halloween and the solstice, is definitely an inward time. And I found myself immediately being called when I came here to, do water blessing circles and workshops. And I found that even though I began to do that work, that it really is important for me to be holding boundaries in terms of self-care right now and deeply listening. So thank you once again. I haven't been on this call for a while because I've been in busy mode, and I really appreciate it, being here with all of you in the field. Thank you.
This is Susan in Santa Monica, California. My nose has been dripping all night. I feel it's getting into my throat. And not a cold, just a clearing. Let's call it a clearing. Wow. Harvest. I think, and here's where I've been. When we harvest, we're collecting things quickly before they rot, or they need to go into wherever they're going to be stored, or where they're moving on to. So that to me is a lot of movement. And at the same time, there's a big call to slow down. Shelley, you brought that forward. Wanting to move and wanting to slow down. And we are in that liminal space of that. I feel that that's where I am all the time now. I want to be in the liminal space. I want to be the bird's eye view that came in earlier as well. That perspective of really just soaring over it all, really looking down and looking out and looking beyond. How to keep and hold that field beyond these calls. We're here on these calls. We nurture this. We nurture by hearing others share and how beautiful it all is. How do we share the harvest was brought in, the grace of the harvest, learning to be selective, how we harvest our experiences, the challenges. This is also a time when we go into Thanksgiving of the challenges that came with why we have Thanksgiving. What goes back in the collective shadow that we have not dealt with? How this comes out a lot with people when the families do come together for the holidays. Where is our shadow? Where are we needing to clear? And what is our blind spot? What have we not been seeing within ourselves? I feel it's also what this time is. I've certainly been through some challenges this year. Popped in again in my field yesterday. It's around family. And I keep asking myself, Susan, you're the one doing the work. You can raise the field. That's not on their radar. You are the one that can bring in a new voice, a new way, a new love for what the old patterns have been. How to do that, to me, it's a challenge. But it's a beautiful challenge that I am here to take on. I love to take it on. And all of you really help me deepen into that challenge, deepen into my shadow, deepen into the collective shadow. So I thank you for this harvest and gathering time. With that, I'm whole.
Good morning. This is Karen in Costa Rica. Since I read that last night and then with your words this morning, Henry, I've been contemplating what the collective harvest brings, which is why I believe we're all here together in the resonance, creating a stronger resonant field. And then I had to say, okay, what does it mean for me? What does it bring into my life? It's brought new perspectives, more clarity, and so many of the things people have touched on here already today. on the harvesting of what we all have to bring from our own personal experiences and from the field, and blending it together for the greater good of the whole. How do we do this? How do we gather and bring all that we have to give? When we come together, it's so much more powerful, and there's so much more. I can't even think of the right words right now, but it's by the collective, by doing this together, that we can change the world, that we can make a difference. We can individually as well, but it's so much more powerful when we come together. And what keeps coming through my mind right now is when two or more are gathered, yeah, it's great wisdom, and the wisdom of all together and what we all can bring forward. So I so appreciate this group and this call and the wisdom that I've gained from it, and the clarity, and more keeps coming through now. And discernment. It's helped me a great deal with discernment and clarity. So I'm so grateful for it all. I know there is so much more as people speak that comes through me that at the time I speak, I don't always remember to or be able to express, but it's an amazing place. So I thank you for creating it, and I thank you for allowing me to be here. Blessings to all, and I'm whole and as complete as I can be at this moment.
Good morning from Southern California. It's Nancy. I used to think I loved spring more than the harvest season, but as I'm growing older, I'm growing into the harvest season. And it's funny because I've been reading this book, Jim Rohn, The Seasons of Life, and there's this poem in one of the chapters on the fall, and I really relate to it. It says, "I like spring, but it is too young. I like too proud. So I like best of all autumn because its leaves are a little yellow, its tone mellower, its colors richer, and it's tinged a little with sorrow. Its golden riches speak not of the innocence of spring, nor of the power of summer, but of the mellowness and the kingly wisdom of approaching age. It knows the limitations of life and its content." And I've been noticing that I'm kind of settling into this harvest season, and a little voice keeps saying, I need this mellow. It's time to reap the benefits of what was planted in the spring. I don't have to act like it's spring because it's fall, and fall is a mellower time for me. I live in California, and everybody always says there's no seasons in California. And I always joke that, yes, there's earthquakes, wind, fire, and floods, but I know it's fall because there's a heart tree in my yard that was planted in memory of my dad 28 years ago. It's a redbud tree, and it gets these beautiful little, really hot pink flowers, and then they, in the spring, and then they go into this tiny little beautiful hearts that are bright red, and then they grow, about this big. And then when it's fall, they're green, but when it's fall, they start turning, like when I'm in Colorado, I see the aspen. So that's my harvest tree, because I know fall is coming, because the trees are turning, and then they all lose their leaves. I have maybe only about 10 leaves left on the tree right now. And so for me, harvest time is allowing what's not needed anymore, the cycle of life, to change and leave and die and grow. And so it's a practice for me of letting go and opening to the new after the rest in winter and the new spring that's coming. So it's just a big metaphor, that tree, for my life and for harvest. And thank you for being here and all of us being together to feel, I always feel safe and warm and protected when I'm with you all. I'm complete.
So taking a breath together, this is just an opportunity. I think there's just maybe one more person who hasn't shared, and the rest of us can, as I always say, hold the banks of this river that's flowing, this harvesting flow, and we'll just rest in the resonant field where we allow those that haven't spoken, and we have a special way of closing this call, and so stay tuned.
Real quickly.
So this is Oriana, and yeah, I've been feeling this wanting to share, not sure how to put it into words. But I very fortunately had someone send me a link to Andrew Harvey speaking to a Dorothy Walters, I believe it was, that about a Kundalini experience. And this Saturday, I was in this experience. I was opening my little temple like I do every morning, but somehow I just kept going with this expansion, but it was an expansion into the non-existence, where I have spoken to it many times about the non-existence and the balance with the existence, but this time I literally just let go of existence and kept expanding. And I remember at one point wondering of what it was I was experiencing, but my head wasn't full of thoughts. It was like on fire. It was just light that was almost like fireworks going off. But I remember at one point wondering, is this what enlightenment is like? And how would I hold on to this? This is like well beyond me. And whoa, it just kept going. And then there was just this peacefulness. And I remember seeing a serpent coming up through the third eye, much like a Egyptian headdress where the cobra comes right up through the third eye. And then a moment of being held in this birthing of a dragon, where that serpent became the feathered Quetzalcoatl, the rising serpent. And none of it made any sense until I listened to Andrew Harvey this morning, speaking of his Kundalini awakening and saying it's different for everyone, but you have to expand into that nothingness, the willingness to let go of everything in order to experience absolute nothingness. So there's my attempt to harvest my experience. It's still unfolding. And I will end there and ask Shelley if you want to say anything about the writing or wait until, not yet? Okay. In that case, thank you, I'm whole.
Well, following that thread, the beauty of it all in this harvest is that it's a continuing cycle, has been shared today. And with it, I don't know if you can see this, but I was out walking yesterday and it was really windy. And I noticed these things kind of hanging from a tree like this. I'm like, what is that? I'd never seen it before. And so in terms of harvest and movement and cycles, I don't think you can see, oh yeah, maybe you can. Let's see if I can put this really close. Can you see the heart inside? Mm-hmm. Right? So, it just was such a joy to find that, because it's the heart of everything that is giving back to life itself in the process of harvest. And that's all that we're doing here is just, it's this unfurling life force energy that's always, what is the information coming in and us taking it back out into whomever we meet, or, our week, call it our week, really. It's just a bunch of moments, but that we're always in that process of receiving, informing, being those trans receivers of love and connection. So thank you so much for showing up here this morning. And Henry, yes?
I just like to take a moment, invite you to take a moment to just harvest our conversation, to see, sense, or feel what you have harvested, what you have experienced that has been freely offered from the voices, from the individual beings that we are sharing this circle. And just take a moment to feel, and you may see some images or just get a sense of that, and just open to what draws you, what delights you with and just in a sense of gratitude, which gratitude itself is harvesting. Thank you.
So pulling that thread forward, that experience, our collective experience, we have a beautiful way of ending this call and invite you to join our choir of Yum and ripple this energy out to whomever, to your community, to the region, out to the planet in that beautiful matrix of light. So inviting everyone to take yourselves off mute and really send this forward. So yum, 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 yum. Blessings. See you all next week.
Much love.
Bye.
Much love.